The Valorian Dominion had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Their empire stretched across 1,000 worlds, and every species they met had fallen before them. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 eyes that glowed like dying stars. Their ships were black as the void itself. Moving through space like hungry predators searching for prey, Commander Zorath stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Blade. He watched through the viewing screen as another planet surrendered to his fleet. The people below had seen his ships arrive. They had watched him destroy their 3 moons in a matter of hours. Now they were sending messages of surrender, begging for mercy, promising to serve the Dominion forever. It was the same story everywhere. Zorath had conquered 37 worlds in his long career. Not once had any species truly fought back. They always looked at the size of the Valorian ships, calculated their chances of winning, and chose to live as slaves rather than die as free beings. It was logical. It was smart. It was also deeply boring. Zorath turned away from the screen and walked to his command chair. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Vexus, approached with a data tablet in her clawed hands. She was younger than him, eager to prove herself, but she had the same cold efficiency that all Valorian officers possessed. "Commander," she said, "our long-range scouts have found a new system, a yellow star with 8 planets. One of them shows signs of advanced life." Zorath took the tablet and looked at the information without much interest. "What do we know about them?" "They call themselves humans. They live on the 3rd planet from their star, a world they call Earth. Their population is approximately 8 billion. They are carbon-based, bipedal, and surprisingly similar to us in basic body structure, technology level." Vexus hesitated for a moment. Zorath noticed this and looked up at her with curiosity. In all their years serving together, he had never seen her hesitate. "They are primitive," she finally said. "Nuclear fission for power. Chemical rockets for space travel. They have visited their own moon and sent machines to nearby planets, but they have no faster-than-light capability. By our standards, they are children playing with toys." Zorath almost smiled. "Then why did you hesitate, Lieutenant?" Vexus pulled up more data on the tablet. "We sent a probe to study them. It was destroyed before it could complete its scan. We assumed it was a malfunction, so we sent another probe. It was also destroyed. We sent a 3rd probe with our best stealth technology, the kind that has fooled every species we have ever encountered. And they found it. They captured it. They took it apart." Vexus paused. "Commander, they should not have been able to detect that probe. Their technology is not advanced enough. But somehow they did." Zorath felt something stir in his chest. It was an unfamiliar feeling, something he had not experienced in centuries. It took him a moment to recognize it as interest. True interest, not the dull routine of another easy conquest. He stood up from his chair and walked to the main viewing screen. The surrendered planet hung below them, its cities dark and quiet, its people already accepting their new masters. Beyond it, the stars stretched out forever, holding countless worlds waiting to be claimed. "Tell me more about these humans," he said. Vexus accessed the data their surviving scouts had gathered. "They are a violent species. Their history is filled with war. They fight among themselves constantly, dividing into groups based on territory, belief systems, and even the color of their skin. They have developed weapons capable of destroying their entire civilization many times over, yet they have not done so. They have weapons that could destroy themselves, but they choose not to use them." "Correct. They call them nuclear weapons. They have enough to burn their world to ash, but they keep them pointed at each other as a warning rather than using them." Zorath found this fascinating. Most species either destroyed themselves with such weapons or never developed them at all. Humans had found a middle path, living on the edge of destruction but never falling over. What else? "They are adaptable," Vexus continued. "They live in almost every environment their planet offers. Frozen wastelands, burning deserts, dense jungles, open oceans. They modify their bodies with clothing and technology to survive anywhere. They also reproduce quickly and have short lifespans compared to us. A human lives perhaps 80 to 100 years. "So short," Zorath murmured. "How do they accomplish anything?" They work fast. They do not have time to waste, so they push forward constantly. Their technology has advanced more in the last 200 years than in the previous 10,000. They went from riding animals to flying machines in a single lifetime. They went from basic radio communication to a planetary information network in less than 50 years. Zorath turned to face Vexus directly. You sound almost impressed, Lieutenant. I am concerned, Commander. Every other species we have conquered showed us their fear before we even arrived. They saw our ships and knew they could not win. But the humans who captured our probe did not seem afraid. They seemed curious. They took it apart to learn how it worked, not to find our weaknesses. Curiosity is not a threat, perhaps not. But they also broadcast a message after capturing the probe. Our translation systems decoded it. What did it say? Vex's read from the tablet. It said, "We know you are watching. We know you are coming. We will be ready." The bridge fell silent. The other officers had stopped their work to listen. No species had ever sent such a message. No species had ever promised readiness instead of pleading for mercy. Zorath laughed. It was a cold, harsh sound that echoed through the bridge. Brave words from a primitive species. They have no idea what is coming for them. They have never seen a Valorian fleet in full force. They have never watched their cities burn from orbit. He returned to his command chair and sat down with confidence. Set course for the Sol system. We will teach these humans what every other species has learned. We will show them that bravery without power is just another form of suicide. The Eternal Blade turned toward a distant yellow star. Behind it, 46 other Valorian warships followed in perfect formation. They moved through space like a plague, leaving conquered worlds in their wake. On Earth, humans looked up at the night sky without knowing what was coming. They went about their daily lives, fighting their small wars, building their small machines, dreaming their small dreams. They had no idea that their world had been marked for conquest by the greatest military power the galaxy had ever known. But deep in classified bunkers, certain humans did know. They had studied the captured probe. They had decoded its transmissions. They knew the Valorians were coming, and they had already begun to prepare. The Valorian Dominion had never lost a war. They had never met a species they could not crush. They believed humans would be another easy victory, another world added to their collection. They were wrong. They just did not know it yet. The Valorian fleet crossed the edge of the Sol system on a cold Tuesday morning. Earth's deep space tracking stations detected them passing Neptune. 47 massive objects moving in perfect formation toward the inner planets. Within hours, every government on Earth knew the truth. The aliens were no longer a theory. They were real, and they were coming. General Patricia Cole stood in a bunker, buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. She was a tall woman with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. She had spent 30 years in the military, fighting in conflicts across the globe, and she had thought she understood war. Now she realized she had only been practicing. The main screen in front of her showed the alien fleet. Each ship was massive, larger than anything humans had ever built. They moved without visible engines, gliding through space as if gravity itself pushed them forward. Even from this distance, their power was obvious. "What are we dealing with?" Patricia asked. Dr. Samuel Price stepped forward. He was a thin man with messy hair and thick glasses, the kind of scientist who forgot to eat when he was working on a problem. He had spent the last 3 months studying the alien probe they had captured, taking it apart piece by piece to understand how it worked. "The Valorians," Sam said. "That is what they call themselves. Based on the probe's data, they have conquered over 1,000 worlds across the galaxy. Their technology is roughly 500 years ahead of ours. Their weapons use focused particle beams that can cut through any material we have. Their shields can absorb nuclear explosions without damage. Can we fight them?" Sam removed his glasses and cleaned them slowly. It was a habit he had when he was about to deliver bad news. "With our current technology, no. Our missiles would be like throwing rocks at a tank. Our ships would be destroyed before they got within weapons range. In a straight fight, we would lose in hours." Tricia stared at the screen. The alien ships were beautiful in a terrible way, like sharks moving through dark water. "Then we do not fight straight. She turned to the other officers in the room. Generals and admirals from every major nation sat at the conference table, their faces showing various degrees of fear and determination. For the first time in human history, there were no enemies in this room. There were only humans. "We have been preparing for this," Patricia said. "Not this specifically, but the idea of it. Every nation has doomsday plans, weapons that were never meant to be used, strategies that were considered too extreme for any human conflict. Those rules no longer apply." She pulled up a series of files on the main screen. Project names flashed past: Operation Sunfire, Protocol Omega, the Lazarus Initiative. These were humanity's darkest secrets, weapons and plans developed in fear and hidden in shame. "We cannot match their technology," Patricia continued, "but we can match their will. We can show them that conquering Earth will cost them more than it is worth." Over the next 3 days, humanity mobilized. Factories that had built cars switched to building missiles. Nuclear arsenals that nations had promised to reduce were suddenly expanded. Scientists who had spent their careers studying peace now studied war. The entire species turned its focus toward a single goal: survival. The Valorian fleet entered the inner solar system without slowing down. Commander Zoroth watched Earth grow larger on his viewing screen, a blue and green jewel hanging in the darkness. It was a beautiful world, rich with water and life. It would make an excellent addition to the Dominion. "Open a communication channel," Zoroth ordered. "Send them the standard declaration." Lieutenant Vexus transmitted the message. It was the same message the Valorians had sent to hundreds of worlds before. It announced their arrival, declared their intention to conquer, and offered mercy to those who surrendered quickly. It promised slavery instead of death, which the Valorians considered generous. The response came within minutes. It was not what Zoroth expected. A human female appeared on the screen. She had dark skin and silver hair, and her eyes held no fear at all. She wore a military uniform covered with medals and ribbons, and she stood straight, as if facing an enemy across a battlefield. "I am General Patricia Cole of the United Earth Defense Council," she said. "Your message has been received and understood. Our response is simple: turn back now, or face the consequences." Zoroth leaned forward in his chair. "You dare threaten us? You have seen our ships. You know what we can do? Your entire planet cannot stand against us." "You are correct," Patricia replied. "We cannot defeat you in battle. We know this. But we can make you pay a price for our world that you will never forget. We can make Earth so costly to conquer that your empire will think twice before attacking any other species." Empty words. Every species claims they will fight. Every species surrenders when they see their cities burning. Patricia smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "We are not every species. We have spent our entire history fighting each other. War is not something we fear. War is something we understand. You think you are bringing war to us? Commander, you are bringing war to the species that invented it." The transmission ended. Zoroth sat back in his chair, feeling that strange sensation again. Not quite fear, but something close to it. Respect, perhaps, or concern. "What do our scans show?" he asked. Vexus studied her instruments. "They are mobilizing everything they have. Their nuclear arsenals are being activated. Their spacecraft are being launched. They are broadcasting messages to their entire population, calling for total resistance. They will resist." "All of them?" "It appears so, Commander. Every nation, every military, every capable adult is being asked to fight. They are not negotiating among themselves. They have already agreed to stand together." Zoroth had never seen anything like this. When the Valorians arrived at a new world, local governments usually fought among themselves over who would surrender first, hoping to gain favor with their new masters. The idea that an entire species would unite against a common threat was almost unthinkable. "It does not matter," he finally said. "Unity without power is meaningless. They can stand together and die together. The result will be the same." He gave the order to advance. The Valorian fleet moved toward Earth, confident in their superiority, certain of their victory. They had conquered 1,000 worlds. What was one more? On Earth, Patricia watched the alien ships approach. She knew the odds. She knew how this was likely to end. But she also knew something the Valorians did not. Humans did not calculate their chances before fighting. They did not weigh costs and benefits. When threatened, they simply fought with everything they had and worried about the consequences later. It was not logical. It was not rational, but it was who they were. God help us all, she whispered as the alien fleet entered orbit. Then she gave the order to begin the attack. The sky above Earth turned to fire. Every missile silo on the planet opened at once. Every submarine launched its payload. Every aircraft carried its bombs into the sky. Thousands of weapons rose toward space. A wave of destruction that would have ended human civilization 10 times over if it had been aimed at the ground commander. Zaruth watched the attack on his screen and felt nothing but amusement. "Activate shields," he ordered calmly. The Valorian ships glowed with energy as their defensive barriers came online. The first missiles struck moments later, nuclear warheads exploding against the shields in brilliant flashes of light. The explosions were massive, each one releasing enough energy to destroy a city, but the shields held without any sign of strain. They throw their strongest weapons at us and accomplish nothing. This will be over quickly. But Lieutenant Vexus was frowning at her instruments. "Commander, I am detecting additional objects approaching our fleet. They are not missiles." Zorath looked at the screen. Dozens of small spacecraft were rising from Earth's surface and approaching the Valorian ships. They were crude things, clearly built in a hurry, with boxy shapes and chemical rocket engines that left trails of fire behind them. "What are those?" he asked. "They appear to be cargo vessels, space stations, even civilian spacecraft. They are all heading directly toward our ships." Why would they send unarmed vessels against us? The answer came seconds later. The first human vessel reached the Eternal Blade and crashed directly into its shields. The collision triggered a nuclear detonation hidden inside the vessel, an explosion far larger than the missiles had carried. The shield flickered visibly for the first time. "They are using themselves as weapons," Vexus said, her voice carrying disbelief. "The vessels are crude. There are humans inside them." More vessels struck the Valorian ships. Each one was piloted by a human who knew they would not survive, who had volunteered to die so that their explosion would be perfectly positioned. The shields that had laughed at missiles now struggled against this new form of attack. Zorath stood up from his chair. "This is madness. They are killing themselves." "It is working, Commander. Our shields are depleting faster than they can recharge. We have already lost 2 cruisers, the International Space Station." Dr. Catherine Moore watched the battle through the observation window. She was 53 years old, a mother of 2, a scientist who had spent her life studying the peaceful beauty of space. Now she was piloting the station toward the Valorian command ship. She had volunteered for this mission, knowing exactly what it meant. Her children were safe in a bunker in Switzerland. Her husband had been killed in the initial attack, when the Valorians destroyed the orbital defense platforms. She had nothing left to lose, and everything to gain. The station's communication system crackled. A Valorian voice came through, translated by the computers they had taken from the captured probe. "Human vessel. You are on a collision course with our flagship. Turn back now, or you will be destroyed." Catherine laughed softly. "You think I do not know that? I have been heading toward you for 3 hours. I have had plenty of time to turn around." There was silence from the Valorian ship. Then the voice spoke again, and this time it sounded almost confused. "Why? Why would you choose death when you could live?" "Because living as a slave is not living at all. Because my children deserve a future where they can look at the stars without fear. Because you made a mistake when you came here, and I want to be the one who teaches you what that mistake was." She opened a channel to the entire Valorian fleet, broadcasting on every frequency. "You want to know why we fight like this? Let me tell you. We have spent our entire existence fighting each other. Every generation we find new reasons to kill and new ways to die. We have survived ice ages and plagues and wars that killed millions. We have built weapons that could end all life on our planet. And we have chosen not to use them because we wanted to save them for a real threat. The station was close now. Close enough that she could see the eternal blade filling her viewport. Its shields glowed with the impacts of other vessels, flickering like a candle in the wind. You think you are warriors? You have never fought anyone who could truly fight back. You have never faced an enemy who was willing to die just to hurt you. You are not warriors. You are bullies. And we are about to show you what happens when bullies pick the wrong target. Catherine closed her eyes and pressed the detonation trigger. The International Space Station, humanity's greatest achievement in space, exploded against the Eternal Blade's shields. The ship shuddered. Its lights flickered. For a moment, it seemed like it might fail completely, but the shields held. Barely Zorath gripped his command chair as the ship stabilized. Around him, his officers were shouting damage reports. 3 more ships lost. Shields on half the fleet damaged. Weapon systems overloading from the constant attacks. We need to pull back, Vexus said. We cannot sustain this level of assault. Retreat? From primitives. Zorath could not believe what he was hearing. They are not fighting like primitives, Commander. They are fighting like cornered animals. They are not trying to win. They are trying to make us bleed. The battle continued for 6 more hours. Human vessels kept coming. An endless stream of volunteers willing to die for a chance to damage the invaders. By the time Zorath finally ordered the retreat, the Valorian fleet had lost 11 ships, and dozens more were damaged. The remaining ships pulled back to the asteroid belt. Far from Earth's reach, Zorath stood on his damaged bridge and tried to understand what had just happened. He had fought dozens of species across the galaxy. None of them had ever done anything like this. On Earth, Patricia watched the alien fleet withdraw. She did not celebrate. There was nothing to celebrate. Thousands of humans had died in the attack. The space station was gone. The orbital infrastructure that had taken decades to build was destroyed. They had bought time, nothing more. But they had also done something no other species had ever done. They had hurt the Valorians. They had made them retreat. They had proven that humans would not surrender, no matter the cost. What now? Sam asked, standing beside her. Patricia looked at the tactical display. The alien ships were regrouping, probably planning their next attack. They would come back. They would come back with more ships and better tactics. The war was just beginning. Now we learn, she said. We take everything we know about their technology and we figure out how to use it against them. We have bought ourselves time. We cannot waste it. The captured probe sat in a laboratory 2 floors below, its secrets slowly being unlocked by the best minds on Earth. Humanity had been thrown into a war it never asked for. Now it would do what it had always done when faced with impossible odds. It would adapt. It would learn. It would fight. And it would never, ever give up. 6 months had passed since the first battle, and Earth had transformed into something unrecognizable. Every factory, every laboratory, every school had been converted to serve the war effort. Children learned mathematics so they could calculate missile trajectories. Grandmothers assembled weapon components in their living rooms. The entire planet had become a single machine with one purpose: survival. Commander Zorath floated in orbit around Mars, watching Earth through long-range sensors. His fleet had grown to 70 ships. Reinforcements sent from the Dominion after news of his initial defeat spread through the Empire. The High Council had been shocked. They had demanded explanations. They had sent observers to witness the second assault that would surely crush these stubborn primitives. But Zorath had not attacked yet. He had spent 6 months studying his enemy, trying to understand how a species with such inferior technology had managed to hurt him so badly. What he had learned disturbed him deeply. They are not waiting for us to attack, Lieutenant Vexus reported during their morning briefing. They are preparing to attack us. She displayed images captured by their surveillance probes. Massive shipyards had appeared on Earth's surface, building vessels that looked nothing like the crude rockets humans had used before. These new ships had sleek designs with angular hulls, and their engines glowed with a familiar blue light. They have copied our gravity drives, Zorath realized. More than copied. They have improved them. The probe we lost contained our standard drive technology. Human scientists have spent 6 months studying it, and they have already found ways to make it more efficient. Zorath felt cold, despite the warmth of the bridge. That is impossible. It took us centuries to develop that technology. They are fast learners, Commander. It appears to be their greatest strength. When faced with a problem, they throw every available resource at it until it is solved. They do not wait for inspiration. They force progress through sheer determination. On Earth, Daniel Kim stood in the primary shipyard, watching the newest warship take shape. He was 35 years old, a former aerospace engineer who had spent his career designing passenger aircraft. Now, he designed weapons of war. The ship in front of him was called the Defender, though the workers had given it a different name. They called it the Payback. It was 200 meters long, armed with weapons reverse-engineered from Valorian technology. Empowered by gravity, drives that human scientists had not only copied but improved. General Patricia Cole walked up beside him, her uniform dusty from the construction site. How soon until it is ready? 2 weeks for this one. We have 12 more in various stages of completion at other sites. By the end of the month, we will have a real fleet. Patricia nodded slowly. The aliens have been quiet. Their ships just sit there, near Mars, watching us. They have not attacked since the first battle. They are afraid, Daniel said. They came here expecting an easy victory. They found something else. Now they are trying to figure out what to do about it. Fear makes enemies dangerous. They will attack again, and this time, they will not underestimate us. Good. We will be ready. In the Valorian fleet, Commander Zorath had called a council of his senior officers. The observers from the High Council sat in the back of the room, their 4 eyes watching everything with cold judgment. We cannot wait any longer, Zorath announced. Every day we delay, the humans grow stronger. Their fleet already numbers over 100 vessels, and they are building more every day. If we wait another 6 months, they may actually be able to challenge us directly. One of the observers spoke. Then attack now. Destroy their shipyards. Burn their factories. This species has defied the Dominion long enough. It is not that simple, Vexus said. We have studied their defensive preparations. They have built weapons on the surface, large installations that appear to use gravity manipulation technology. We do not know what these weapons can do. They are bluffing, another observer scoffed. They cannot have mastered our technology so quickly. They captured our probe, Zorath reminded them. They decoded our systems. They built functional gravity drives in 6 months. Underestimating them is what cost us 11 ships in the first battle. The room fell silent. Everyone remembered the first battle. Everyone had seen the recordings of human vessels crashing into Valorian ships, their crews choosing death over surrender. It was something that haunted their dreams. There is another option, Zorath continued. We send envoys to negotiate. We offer them a place in the Dominion as a protected species, rather than a conquered one. They keep their planet, their governments, their way of life. In exchange, they agree to stop building weapons and share their technological improvements with us. The observers exchanged glances. Negotiate. With primitives? They are not primitives anymore. They have proven that. Negotiation may cost us less than another battle. The High Council considered this proposal for 3 days before approving it. A Valorian shuttle was sent to Earth carrying 3 diplomats and an offer of peace. The humans received them politely, listened to their offer carefully, and then broadcast their response to the entire planet. Patricia stood before the cameras, knowing that billions of people were watching. Behind her, the 3 Valorian diplomats hung from ropes, their gray bodies swaying gently in the wind. They had been executed publicly, their deaths recorded and transmitted to the Valorian fleet. This is our answer, Patricia said. We do not negotiate with invaders. We do not accept terms from those who came to enslave us. You offered us a place in your dominion. Here is our counteroffer. Leave our system and never return, or we will destroy every ship you have. The broadcast ended. In the Valorian fleet, Commander Zorath watched in stunned silence. The observers were screaming for immediate retaliation, demanding that Earth be burned to ash for this insult. But Zorath felt something else, something he had not experienced since his youth. Feared these humans did not behave like any species he had ever encountered. They did not seek peace. They did not want compromise. They wanted blood. They wanted revenge for the invasion that had cost them so many lives. And they were willing to die, all of them, to get it. "They have gone mad," one of his officers whispered. No, Zorath replied quietly. "They have become what we made them. We came to their world as conquerors. We forced them to become warriors. And now they are better at war than we ever imagined possible." He gave the order to prepare for battle. The Valorian fleet began moving toward Earth, 70 ships against whatever the humans had managed to build. This time, there would be no retreat. This time, one side or the other would be destroyed completely. On Earth, Patricia watched the alien fleet approach. She felt no fear, only a cold determination that had settled into her bones over the past 6 months. She had watched friends die. She had ordered attacks that killed thousands of volunteers. She had become something she never wanted to be, but she had also seen what humanity could accomplish when pushed to its limits. She had seen enemies become allies, rivals become brothers, and an entire species unite against a common threat. If this was the end, at least they would face it together. "All ships, prepare for launch," she ordered. "All surface batteries, charge weapons. This is what we have been preparing for. This is our moment." The human fleet rose to meet the invaders. 127 ships built by desperate hands and piloted by brave souls climbed toward the stars to defend their home. The final battle was about to begin. The battle began at dawn. Though in space, there was no sun to mark the hour. The Valorian fleet advanced in a perfect wedge formation, 70 warships moving like a blade aimed at Earth's heart. Behind them, the observers from the High Council watched from a safe distance. Ready to record the final conquest of this troublesome species, Commander Zorath stood on the bridge of the Eternal Blade, his 4 eyes fixed on the approaching human fleet. They were smaller than his ships, crude by Valorian standards, but there were so many of them. 127 vessels spread across space in an irregular formation that made no tactical sense. "They have no discipline," one of his officers remarked. "Look at how they scatter." "They're not scattering," Vexus said quietly. "They are surrounding us." Zorath saw it now. The human ships were not fleeing or attacking directly. They were spreading out to encircle the Valorian fleet, cutting off retreat routes and creating multiple angles of attack. It was a strategy that should not work against superior firepower. But the humans did not seem to care about what should work. The first shots were fired at maximum range. Valorian particle beams lanced out toward the human ships, and human weapons responded with their own copied technology. The space between the fleets filled with deadly light as shields on both sides began to glow with absorbed energy. The Valorians had expected to cut through the human fleet like a knife through soft flesh. Instead, they found themselves in a fight. The human ships were faster and more agile than anything they had encountered. They dodged and weaved between Valorian shots, taking damage but refusing to die. When one ship was destroyed, 2 more took its place. On the Defender, Daniel Kim watched his tactical display and shouted orders to his crew. His ship was in the thick of the fighting, trading shots with a Valorian cruiser twice its size. The shields were failing. The hull was taking damage. But the cruiser was also hurting, its own shields flickering under the constant bombardment. "All batteries focus on their engine section," Daniel ordered. "If we can disable their drives, they become a target." The Defender and 3 other human ships concentrated their fire on a single point. The Valorian cruiser tried to turn away, but it was too slow. Its shields collapsed, and the next volley of shots tore through its engines. The massive ship began to drift, helpless. As human vessels swarmed around it like wolves bringing down a wounded animal, the battle raged for hours. Zorath watched his fleet shrink as ship after ship was destroyed or disabled. The humans were taking losses too, terrible losses, but they did not slow down. For every human ship destroyed, another seemed to appear from nowhere. They were launching reinforcements from Earth's surface, sending every vessel that could fly into the battle regardless of whether it was ready. "Commander, we have lost 23 ships," Vexus reported. "Our shields are at 40%. The human fleet is still growing. How is that possible? We destroyed dozens of their vessels. They're launching everything. Cargo ships, research vessels, private spacecraft. Anything that can move and carry a weapon is joining the battle." Zorath looked at his display and saw the truth. The humans were not fighting like a military. They were fighting like a species that had decided death was preferable to defeat. Civilian ships rammed Valorian vessels. Pilots who had been farmers and teachers a year ago flew into the heart of the enemy fleet without hesitation, and then the surface weapons activated. On Earth, Patricia stood in the command bunker and gave the order she had been waiting to give for 6 months. Fire. Across the planet, massive installations pointed toward the sky and released their power. They were gravity weapons, built using technology from the captured probe, but scaled up to levels the Valorians had never imagined. Each one created a focused beam of gravitational force that could tear apart anything in its path. The first beam struck a Valorian battleship directly. The ship did not explode. It simply collapsed in on itself, crushed by forces that overwhelmed its shields instantly. One moment it was there. The next, it was a ball of compressed metal and flesh no larger than a car. The second beam struck another ship, then another. The Valorian fleet began to panic as vessels that had survived. Everything the human fleet could throw at them were destroyed by weapons they could not dodge and could not defend against. Zorath watched his command ship shake as a gravity beam passed nearby. "What are those weapons? How do they have such power?" "Unknown, Commander. The energy readings are beyond anything in our records." "Retreat," Zorath ordered. "All ships, retreat to the outer system." The observers screamed protests. They demanded that he continue the attack, that he fulfill his duty to the Dominion. Zorath ignored them. He had seen enough. He had lost enough. The humans had won. The Valorian fleet limped away from Earth, leaving behind the wreckage of 31 ships. The human fleet pursued them to the orbit of Mars before falling back to defend their homeworld. Both sides had been devastated, but only one had achieved its objective. Earth was still free. 3 days later, Zorath requested a communication channel to Earth. Patricia appeared on his screen, looking as tired as he felt. Behind her, he could see celebrations in the streets, humans cheering and weeping and holding each other. "You want to surrender?" Patricia asked. "Want to leave?" Zorath replied. "My fleet will withdraw from your system. We will place warning beacons at your borders, telling all Valorians to stay away. Your world will be marked as forbidden territory if you return." Zorath looked at her with something like respect. "We will not return. You have proven that Earth cannot be conquered. The cost would be too high for any prize." He paused, then asked the question that had been burning in his mind since the battle began. "Why? Why did you fight so hard? You could have surrendered. You could have joined the Dominion and lived in peace. Instead, you chose war. You chose death. Why?" Patricia considered the question for a long moment. "Because we are human. We do not surrender. We do not bow. We have fought for our freedom since the first of us stood upright and looked at the stars. You came to our home and threatened everything we love. What did you expect us to do?" Zorath had no answer. He ended the transmission and ordered his ships to leave the Sol system. As they passed the outer planets, he composed his report to the High Council. It was simple and direct. Earth was not conquered. Earth could not be conquered. The species called humans had proven themselves to be the most dangerous enemies the Dominion had ever faced. They were irrational, unpredictable, and utterly without fear. They would rather die than submit, and they would take as many enemies with them as possible. His recommendation was clear. Avoid all contact with humanity. Do not threaten them. Do not approach them. Let them stay in their small corner of the galaxy and hope they never decide to expand on Earth. Patricia stood at her window and watched the last Valorian ship disappear into the darkness. The war was over. Humanity had survived. Dr. Sam Price stood beside her, his face showing the exhaustion they all felt. What do we do now? Patricia looked at the sky, at the stars that suddenly seemed less hostile than they had a year ago. We rebuild. We grow stronger. We make sure that no one ever threatens our home again. And then, she smiled, though the expression held no warmth. Then we go out there. We meet the other species in this galaxy. We show them what humanity has become. The first human starship launched a month later, carrying not weapons but a message. It was broadcast in every language humanity knew, and every language they had learned from the Valorians. We are humans. We come from Earth. We do not seek war, but we do not flee from it. We offer friendship to those who approach us with respect, and destruction to those who approach us with violence. Remember what happened to the Valorian fleet? Remember the price they paid for threatening our home. Choose your path wisely. The galaxy had thought it knew what to expect from new species. It had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, had watched empires grow and crumble. It had seen every possible response to first contact, but it had never seen anything like humanity. It had never met a species that combined such creativity and such violence, such compassion and such cruelty, such wisdom and such madness. The Valorian Dominion had been afraid of nothing for 12,000 years. Now they were afraid of one small blue planet and the strange, stubborn creatures who lived there, and as human ships began to spread through the stars, that fear spread with them. The universe had changed forever. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same again.